How should a child have? I can't tell you how many times I've heard that question in the last 25 years. I've been writing IEPs professionally for a couple of decades. I started at the IEP table as a special needs sibling. My brother has Down syndrome. And when I went to school to become a teacher, special education teacher, this is something that was not discussed at all. How many goals should a child have? We were told that a child should have an appropriate education. In fact, we weren't even taught the entire purpose and findings of the IDEA law, which back then it wasn't even called IDEA law. It was called Public Law 94-142. I can completely remember exactly what it was called because I was obsessed with making sure that I was providing this appropriate education for students. I knew how important it was because I knew how important it was for my brother. So when I got IEPs in my hands as a teacher, I realized there was a huge variety between the IEPs, as there should be, because it needs to be individualized. But some IEPs had 3 goals. Some IEPs had more than 20 goals. I'm sure you can tell by the way that I said that over 20 goals just doesn't make sense. We have a limited amount of time inside of our school day. We have a lot of things that need to fit inside of that school day between OT, PT, speech, assistive technology, going to multiple classrooms to receive instruction, sometimes with general education students, sometimes with fellow special education students. All different things are happening. There's all these moving parts, and we absolutely have to focus on IEP goals every day. Now, we don't get to every goal every day, but we have to focus on IEP goals every day. So how many goals should a child have? There's not a right number. There's not a 3 goals, 5 goals, 7 goals. A child needs to have enough goals to have an appropriate education. They need to have enough goals that the parent concerns are addressed, the parent vision of what needs to be happening to prepare a child for further education, employment, independent living. We need to make sure that those are addressed. We need to make sure that a child has space in their day to learn. What I mean by that is if we pack the day back to back to back to back, the child is set up for failure, not for success. Have you ever had that in your own calendar? We have meeting after meeting after meeting, or errand after errand after errand. You have to-do list after to-do list after to-do list. You have no space to breathe. You cannot take things in and do your best work because there's no space in the day. Sometimes the best progress, the best movement forward for a child is not going to happen while we're sitting in direct instruction, teaching flashcards, but it's going to happen when we have space to use those words in context. So how many IEP goals does a child really need? They need enough to make sure that their needs are met. They need enough to make sure that all domains are addressed. We do not need to put in an IEP goal for everything that a child needs to learn because there's a domino effect. When we prioritize IEP goals and we get the best of the best IEP goals, there's a domino effect that happens. So when you're learning one of the larger skills, automatically some of the minute, smaller skills that are absolutely necessary will happen in the naturally occurring environment. We need enough IEP goals that everything's addressed, but yet we still have space for the teacher and the therapist to have creativity during the day, for the child to be able to take a breather and know how to rest and reset. For some kids, that takes a few seconds between activities just to kind of breathe and go through. It's maybe 60 seconds. For some students, they need a longer transition time. This whole transition time of, bell to bell, maybe you have 3 minutes between classes. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes we need an entire period put into a child's day so they can regroup and get through that second half of the day. You need enough IEP goals so that when you look back, you know that you did everything that you could and that a quality education did not mean jam-packing everything and anything into your child or your student's day, but that you thought about what the child needed at that moment and for the future to ensure that, again, that they're prepared for further education, employment, independent living. I encourage you to look at the IEPs. If you're a teacher, the IEPs that you're writing. If you're a parent, go take your child's IEP. And before you get started in this next school year, or before you get started in the next semester, before you go back from break, that you look at, is my child being pushed enough through these IEP goals? Or do we need to pull back because there's too much chaos inside of this document and it's making it impossible for the child to grow because we are just cramming everything together, that the natural growth cannot happen, that application is not happening. So there is no exact right number, but we do need to take into consideration certain factors to decide. No, let me just add this in there too. What the IEP goals are and how much time each one of them takes and how they're going to be implemented can absolutely be another factor. So let me just throw in there. So if we're working on something like turn taking is not something that we have to sit down and work on directly for 20 minutes every day. Turn taking can be naturally integrated throughout the school day. That IEP goal actually takes less time than perhaps something that requires 3 direct 20-minute instruction sessions per week. So maybe reading, we have 3 20-minute sessions that are one-on-one. That takes up more time in a child's schedule than naturally occurring routines and things that we can learn within those routines. So I encourage you that if you have questions about how to make this IEP goal decision, how many need to be in there, that you reach out. Let's talk about it. Let me share some resources with you that can help you get confident in what needs to happen in IEP goals so we can have the best school year ever.